So fast, everybody. I want to make sure that we have time to show off a lot of the other things as well. So,
Products within the Copilot ecosystem, one of the ones that, we're going to mention in typical day-to-day operations, Excel. A lot of people work out of Excel. It's a pretty common, you know, part of our day-to-day operations. And if you're like me, it's a weak point. Some people are wired to be really good at Excel. Before we started this meeting today, Noah and I were talking about, he's got a guru over there named Jesse. Fantastic, fun to watch him work. I have a guy from like 8 years ago that I still remember his name, Marco Romagnoli, and he was also fantastic at Excel. The cool thing about Copilot is it's like having one of those people always with you, ready to go at your fingertips. And when you're dealing with large language model and generative AI and large data sets, the real advantage, in my opinion, is the ability to extract information and come up with ways to manipulate the data that are not super technically challenging. You basically just have to ideate what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and then you type it into the prompt within the Copilot interface, and then it's going to spit that back out for you. So as an example here, we have this Excel document pulled up. This Excel document is some sample data that Noah and I populated. And then you can see that it has a couple of different columns here to describe the segment of the companies that are listed in here, the products that they're selling, discount bands, units sold, manufactured units, sales price, gross sales, discount sales, cost of goods sold, profit, date, month number, month name. So this is a pretty reflective or typically reflective data set for something and a company who's tracking their performance over a lifetime. And so you can see here, because there's a differentiation on year and products, you can ask it a question like what I did up here, which is, please tell me which product is the best lifetime performance and provide the total profit. And so what you can see here is it found me the Paseo product. It said that the Paseo product is the best performer over all of the years, and the total sum of profit for them is $4,797,437.95. So very specific. What's nice about this is instead of me having to go through and apply a bunch of filters and manipulate the data, I could just query it, like I said, a plain text English question, which is tell me who did the best, and then it's going to spit that out for me. Now you can see that once it generates a response, like Noah was demonstrating in some of the other applications, and this is true in Excel as well, it's going to give me a couple of prompts or suggestions for things that it thinks I should do next with it. But if I were to say, let's draft, please draft me an email to the producer of Paseo, or of product Paseo, I think is what we should probably say. So we want to be as specific as possible. Asking for a steeper discount, mention the exceptional performance of their product, and explain the upward growth trajectory over the last, let's say, 7 years, because this does go back to 2014. So this is an example, and I wanted to show you this because it's something that is pulling data out of Excel. But what we're doing with that data now is we're trying to turn it into an actionable item. So for example, we're sitting down, we're looking at this and we're saying, okay, we know that Paseo is a product in this example that's performing very well. It's got the highest profit across any of the other products. And so we're going to ask for a steeper discount because we're selling more volume. This is a decision that you would make as a company owner or somebody who's in operations. And then you would want to relay that information back to the producer of that product to communicate that, hey, we're looking for, in this case, a discount. So once I hit send here, it's going to be thinking, and it's going to understand the data, and it's going to run through and it's going to generate a response. So what I'm hoping is, as we're all watching this together and running through it together, we start thinking about ways to apply this in our day-to-day, and hopefully we get some good questions out of y'all as far as, will this work for that? And you start percolating a little bit of the ideation of how to actually apply and start utilizing this product. So I wanted to read this too because I think it's really interesting. So here's the draft that it produced. It said request for a steeper discount on Paseo product. It doesn't have the producer name, so this is something that is not in the data set. Therefore, we as the person operating the Copilot product need to fill in that information. And then it says, I hope this email finds you well. I'm cuts right to the chase. Request a steeper discount on the Paseo product. Take the opportunity to commend you on the exceptional performance of this product over the last 7 years. We've seen an upward growth trajectory in sales and profitability. Paseo has consistently been one of our best performing products with a total profit of blah, 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 blah. And so let's say, for example, we don't really want to tell them what the profit is. So we're going to say, so please rewrite that email and omit the profit number. Keep things general but positive. Because perhaps we don't want them to know how profitable we are on their product, as an example, right? And so here we go. So what you can see is that it's omitted the actual number, but the content is still the same. Now, if we wanted to, we've already kind of demonstrated this a little bit, but I want to show you too, as an example, if anybody has like a specific piece of information they'd be curious in. So let's look at, we probably want to know total units sold. So we could do a sum total. If you guys, have played around with Excel, we can just come down here and do a formula and auto sum it. But the other thing that we could do is ask it a little bit more of a complex question. So please tell me the total number of units sold, starting with the least profit, number of units sold by product, starting with the least profitable products at the top of the list and most profitable products at the bottom of the list. So that would be like what, 2 or 3 formulas in Excel to get that, and probably a pivot table as well. But here with Copilot product, you can just ask it to give you that information, and then here it's going to tell you exactly what's going on. Here's a preview, so it's still working on it. But you can see, for example, the profitability is taken into account, and the sum of units sold is also taken into account. So if we want to copy that out, we can export it. We can even add it to a new sheet. So here, I'll show you guys that. So now sheet number 2 has all of the products listed. As you can see in our previous example, Paseo was the most profitable product. And because we asked it to sort it by profitability and include the sum of units sold, it created this nice little table for us. Paseo is indeed at the bottom, so we know that that's accurate. And then if you ever wanted to go back and manipulate this data, now you can work out of this sheet. So it's really quite a powerful tool in the sense that you don't have to be an exceptionally strong user of any of the applications within the Microsoft ecosystem in order to get the most utility out of the product and to query the data and get the responses back that are going to be helpful to make business decisions. I don't know, Noah, is there anything else that you think would be really interesting to see in Excel? And I'm just kind of opening this up a little bit. If not, we were going to move on to PowerPoint.
Well, one thing that Copilot as a whole, and I usually use Copilot Chat for this, although I would imagine it's probably capable of doing it within Excel as well, is that you can actually ask Copilot to assist you with formulas. We were
Yes.
talking before the webinar about how bad I am at writing Excel formulas. Copilot is very capable of doing that, and you can finally put it into words rather than a lengthy formula. So yeah, for example, Walker here is going to do a prompt asking Excel to do a VLOOKUP. How many people here need to do about 15 Google searches before they're able to run one successful VLOOKUP. I'm raising
Yeah,
my hand.
definitely me. Yeah, definitely me.
Yeah. Copilot is great at taking just prompted words and turning that into actual things that you can use within your Excel worksheet. So we're going to see if it's capable of doing that here. And like I said, I know it's capable of doing it within Copilot chat. Um, let's see if it's capable of doing it within Excel directly.
Yeah. And keep in mind, this is one thing that I did see a question come through on. The Copilot product is a subset, kind of an umbrella term of different products. And if you guys were on the last webinar, then you noticed that we kind of talked a little bit about the free version browser. And then we also talked about the version that's specific to company data, to the tenancy, to the Dataverse, and that's the Copilot for Microsoft 365. If you have Copilot for Microsoft 365, this little piece that we have pulled up right here in the Excel document itself, it is still capable of pulling information from the web. And where it's going to go to find that information is dependent on the prompts. So if you ask it a very generic question, like write me a VLOOKUP formula, what it's going to go do is it's going to go look on the internet and Microsoft's KB articles, and it's going to say, okay, here's the format for VLOOKUP. And then what it's going to do is take into account the prompt that you put in and the specific information that you're asking for. And then it's going to tailor that VLOOKUP formula template and give you something that's actually going to be relevant to what we're doing here. So as an example, we can see VLOOKUP segment 1, segments right here, through to segment. It's going to give me profit, return row 12 or column 12, and false. So we want an exact match. And if I could ask it, I just know this from doing VLOOKUP formulas, and I'm going to ask it, what does each of the inputs mean in that VLOOKUP formula?
Yeah, I got to be honest. You reading off that VLOOKUP formula and knowing what each part of it meant, that's past me as well. So,
Muscle memory, yeah. I've had to Google it, and I still do multiple times. And I will not say that I'm a whiz by any means, and that is why, it does take me like 30, 45 minutes. All right, so here it's going to explain it for me. The VLOOKUP formula has four inputs. First input is the value you want to look up. In this case, and it even is specific. In this case, the value in the segment column of the current row. The second input is the range of cells where the value should be searched for. In this case, the range from the segment column to the profit column. So it's going from segment to profit over to here. The fourth input is a logical value that specifies whether it should be an exact match or an approximate match. In this case, and so this is specific to the formula that it generated for us, the value is set to false, which means that an exact match must be found. So if you're ever confused about, or like me, you want some clarification or kind of a breakdown of what this means, because this is gobbledygook for most people, myself included, it will actually give you a plain text version that is tailored and specific to the formula that you asked it to write. So I think that's really quite impressive, and it's kind of that next step up from anything we've seen in the marketplace. And just to reiterate, because we did talk about this a lot on the last one, but we really haven't touched on it today's call. The Copilot product does do a really good job of segmenting, controlling, and containing company data for any requests, so prompts that you put into it, and any output that it generates. All of this is done on the Microsoft backend by putting it behind the gatekeeper of Intra ID for identity management and conditional access. And what that means for you guys logistically is that if you're signed in with your work account, you're using your Microsoft 365 set of credentials and you're accessing the Copilot product, you are protected. Your data is protected. Anything that you put in there is not going to be viewed by people. It's not going to be even saved like some of the other OpenAI products that are out there, like ChatGPT, for example, which is the backbone of this product, but with data controls that are put in place by Microsoft. And so just wanted to stress that little bit of information that anything you put in here is going to be siloed and segmented and specific to you. It's going to just be a one-to-one, and it doesn't save those outputs either. So if you do want something out of Copilot, it is important to make sure that you export, save, and remove that information from this, because after a certain amount of time, it will time out. And once it times out, all of your responses and outputs are going to be deleted.
I do want to make sure that we have time to get to some questions. There's so many questions around Copilot because it's such a new product. So I think we should switch over to that now.
Okay. Yeah, and then let me just show you just
Okay.
very quickly. So please, I'm going to show you the PowerPoint, please. So please generate a PowerPoint presentation based on the information in this Excel workbook. The audience is private equity investors. Just because I think that this is really another piece that's really helpful. You don't have to necessarily be in the application that you're trying to work out of, because the Copilot product follows the user and not necessarily the thing. There is an ability to kind of transpose across different services. In this case, demo curse, it's not doing it for me. But the way to do it properly would actually be to go into the PowerPoint presentation, and then you can have it pull this data to generate that PowerPoint presentation. So two different ways to do it. I guess this piece right here is still in beta. As you can see, it's still in preview. So expect to see more things fleshed out as they continue to move through and update the product. And then Ashley, is that a good stopping point? Should we go to
Yeah,
questions?
I was just going to add to that. I think it's really exciting that they're continuously improving Copilot and adding new features all the time. So I'm sure they'll come out with more too. I think it's really an exciting tool. We had a lot of questions around like security and how to um, just restrict internal private data from being released. Can you just speak a little
Mm-hmm.
bit on, I guess, Microsoft's security policies and what they have in
Sure.
place to combat this?
All right. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So the first thing that you need to that would be good to know about the Copilot product is that because it's built on company data and it pulls from documents and resources, there's inherently going to be concerns about privacy and security. Microsoft has taken that upon themselves. And so what I want to stress here is that from the user perspective, the only thing that you really need to do as an action item is to make sure that you have the prerequisite licensing for all of the data security and controls that you can put in place and should. And I'll explain why that's important. It really has to do with the fact that the Copilot product inherently doesn't create security vulnerabilities in an ecosystem and an environment. But what it can